Hey, welcome. Yeah, we're gonna get started for the sequel to the story event. Um, welcome everyone. So, yeah, excited to get started and kick us off for sequel to the story today. And yeah, this is part of the Startup Spring Week. So we've actually a few different communities around Boston. Prepare for BC, Startup Grind Boston, Boston New Technology, all came together around the TechCrunch conference that's happening on Thursday. And we have a whole series of events lined up this week. We actually kicked off yesterday with several virtual events on SQL as well. We will be hearing from the founder, Oana, who's actually right here with us. And so all of our events throughout the week are going to be a combination of in-person events hosted here at Techstars Boston. We have an event tonight at Mass Challenge, also in the Seaport area. Two events tomorrow at Venture Cafe with both our startup showcase and demo day for the Prepare for BC Accelerator program. TechCrunch conference is on Thursday at Heinz Convention Center. There's going to be a really big turnout for that, and we'll have a table for Prepare for BC to come over. We'll be on booth 5, and love to see everyone come say hi over there as well. A lot of great speakers lined up for that. And then Friday, we have a female founders breakfast we're doing with Windows Adventures and Bank of America. And then in the afternoon, we have 2 back-to-back panels also here at District Hall around coalition partnerships and how to create the most in building your community. So yeah, exciting week, a lot in store, really excited to kick off with our first in-person event of the week, our hybrid event here, and the sequel to the story. So yeah, we got to know Oana and Introvoke, or sequel back when it was Introvoke, and the company was back in Boston, and kind of excited to come full circle and be part of the now rebranded sequel story, and have everybody here today to learn from Oana's experiences, and we have Simone coming in as our great moderator, and also going to hand it over to Yulia to kick off, give us a couple of introductions on the event and the sequel as well. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks so much, Jason. My name is Yulia. I lead partnerships at SQL. All of the virtual events are run on SQL during this Boston Startup Week, Boston Spring. So SQL is the developer solution world that allows you to embed your live events directly on your website, keeping all your audience in front of your cost reduction and branding. So this is exactly what we prepare for UC during this week. The rest of you all can make it all happen. Before I will hand this microphone over to Simone and Oana for speaking here today, I would like to you all to participate in a little poll to one of our presenters, structure their conversation around what's going to be most helpful for you. And Jason is going to pull out the QR code on the screen in a second, but I also have it here on my phone, so you just want to do it, scan it, participate. And with this, Oana Manoloche, and then so it's good collaboration.
And to see the sense of the group, please raise your hand. Who is a founder, co-founder? So, that's great. Who is a joiner? And who supports startups? We're awesome, great, cool. And then who is startup curious? Oh, great. We have everybody for everything. Oana, this is going to be awesome. So super excited to connect with you. My name is Simone LaPray. I'm currently the Director of Growth at Statera, a company started in Boston where we are automating clinician provider compensation. So super great. Excited to be here with you. It's very, very excited to help moderate this conversation with Oana Manoloche, founder and CEO of SQL. SQL has had such an incredible journey, and Oana is such a wonderful founder to really share her journey, her story. And Oana and I made a conversation. We talked about don't sugarcoat anything. Give it real, like real talk, because this is such a valuable opportunity to really make sure that founders don't feel alone. You are not in this alone. There are many founders who are also experiencing the same questions that you have. So with that, I'll kick us off with a few questions, and then I'd really love for this to be a conversation. So I'll be wandering around with the microphone, and please, question comes to mind, and don't hold back. Oana is amazing. She will tell it like it is. And with that, Oana, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you so much for creating a wonderful platform for us to facilitate this conversation, first and foremost.
Thank you for having me. I wish I were there with you, because I know that the Boston events are always such a good fun, incredible people. Having been in Boston and starting SQL in Boston, I wish I could see everyone and mingle with them. But I'm excited to be here in the conversation with you.
And so the company that I worked previously, I worked at Techstars, which Oana is also part of the Techstars family. We are now remote first, and so I really admire and love digital tools that help the community together. And so love SQL is the best in class for that. Oana, tell us a little bit. How did you start SQL? Like, what was its origin story? What made you decide to tackle that challenge?
Yeah, it's kind of the inception. And first of all, yes, Techstars is an incredible community. They say that once you're in Techstars for life, and that is true. We went through Techstars in 2020, and I'm still very much connected to the MDs and everyone else there. So I do recommend Techstars to any founder who wants to kind of kick it off, especially if you're a first-time founder or early stage. In terms of how we started, it was Introvoke before it was SQL. I used to head up marketing for HP for about 8 years, first in Europe and then in the US. And then it all came from my personal need of connection. I was putting up a ton of events that were mostly obviously in person. This is before the pandemic. Virtual events were not a thing. So I was putting together a lot of events. I was a spokesperson for the company, a ton of press conferences, and I was getting frustrated that events were not a little bit more open to other people who could not travel, who had family obligations. And in addition to that, when I was at HP, I was working for the demand generation kind of department. So like I was responsible for the revenue as well as for, the website and everything else. And I was also very frustrated that people had to go somewhere else for webinars instead of actually pulling them into like a digital experience. So as I started kind of doubling down a little bit into kind of this founder entrepreneurship world, we noticed that not only we could allow people to put up events that you can tune in from anywhere in the world, but really empower them to bring all of that into their own digital universe and actually embed all their events, all their webinars in their own website so that they can achieve their demand gen goals. And we started in Boston, very small. As a matter of fact, we started in the startup community. So Boston New Technology was, because I know you're working with them at this event as well. They were using our tech to live stream, events that they were doing in person, and so many other Boston startup communities. And then we started growing from there more and more. We're now a Series A company. We're based in San Francisco, and we have about 25 to 30 people all over the world.
Especially for those of you online and in person, so much that starts with relationships, with testing your product, with demonstrating that product market fit. So Oana, I'd love to hear, once you kind of worked and you've shown proof of concept and that there was a need, people loved what you were offering as a solution, what was your go-to-market? How did you grow from there?
Yeah, I think our go-to-market was very unique because we were also we were building for an industry and for a world that was still learning how the world looks like. We launched, well, soft launch really, Introvoke, what is now SQL, a month before the pandemic. But as we went to market with it, the world has changed in a month. The world needed completely something else because we were prepared for a hybrid world where people could have events in person. And that completely shifted the way we built the technology. And we decided to actually be heads down building rather than kind of building for something that could also would only be provisional. And that's when we got into Techstars and we started building those relationships. And our go-to market at the beginning in the seed stage was all about always iterate, always go to the customers that you think would love your product and tell them, hey, this is what we're building, we would like for you to try it. Obviously be transparent of the fact that it's not perfect and it's not going to be perfect for a very long time, but we were always testing with our customers. I think that that's the one thing that really helped us the most. We always put things in front of our customers because whatever we thought our customers would use, we would go to them and they're like, yes, this could be great, or actually this is not important at all. So we wanted to make sure that we're always building for things that they found valuable. And that was actually part of our go-to-market. By doing this and getting customers on our side very early on, they also became our first paying customers and the ones that stayed with us for a long time. We still have, like, Comcast was one of our very first customers, and it's still, to this point, one of our biggest customers, and HP and a few others as well. So it's all about putting the technology in front of the customers and iterating and building it with them before you have that perfect product that you think, you can't build a perfect product without having your customers with you, always kind of, even identifying the bugs or identifying, the areas of improvement or things that are absolutely amazing that you should double down on. And that was pretty much our go-to-market at the beginning, really working with our target, like ICP, very early on, and iterating that product and making it better until we got pretty much to our Series A. And that's when we started fueling our sales and marketing motion. Until then, it was all about innovation.
Incredible. And Comcast is like an incredible brand to have behind you. And so with that, transitioning to a topic that is often at the forefront for founders is fundraising. And so, there's the running joke that in Boston, like, they always want to see more traction. Investors will always come back and say, I want to see more traction and more traction. And so we'd love to hear, when you were getting ready for your fundraise, how did you know that it was time? And how did you prepare? And how did you successfully close that round?
Yeah, it's true. It's not just a Boston joke. There's always more traction. No matter what you have, obviously investors always want to see more traction. It's interesting. I think that as a founder and as you start building a company early on, investors know that they really know that it's not about the traction. Because when you're a seed stage company and it's just you and maybe a co-founder building something, they know that they're investing in you as founders because your company will change probably like 10 times in the next couple of years. You're going to change your strategies, you're going to change your pricing and modeling. So whatever your plans are at the seed stage when you're fundraising, they're going to be completely changed. Very rarely is the case where you envisioned something in your day one and that was a very linear trajectory. So investors very early on invest in the founders and their ability to adapt and find solutions and be in love with the problem rather than, with the solution. And that's why that's what I would advise, the early stage founders to kind of build that story around it. Obviously, look at the business model and the opportunity there is within the business and how is that solving something in the world, and focus more around that, as well as, of course, the traction is with early customers. Find some customers that absolutely love you. When we raised our seed round, we actually asked our investors to talk to our early customers and our early customers were raving about our product and how different it was from anything else in the market. The fact that they could take control of all their audience in their website, something that was never possible before, and have all those engagements in there and all the beautiful things that they would get. And that's really what convinced our early stage investors to to invest in us. I think that for me at the beginning, I wanted to bootstrap, but then I realized that the opportunity is so huge and the market was changing so fast that I wanted to go a lot faster than what a bootstrap business would have allowed me to do. I have a huge respect for founders who can bootstrap and kind of are growing nicely that way. But I also think that there's an opportunity of having the right investors alongside you. And our seed stage investors, even to this point, are very much part of our journey, and they're the believers that are opening a lot of other doors. So it's just finding the right partners, not also kind of getting the investor money.
Fantastic. And something that's come up in a past conversation that I've never actually been able to follow up with to hear how you did it. You mentioned that Sequel spent $0 marketing dollars until your Series A. And so, inquiring minds want to know, how did you get those customers? What did you do to get the customers outside of those relationships during your seed raise?
Yeah, so our seed stage, we really wanted to focus our resources to build the product. And at Series A, we focused our resources to build our sales and marketing engine. So once we had a little bit more funding for our Series A, and we had our early customers, it was time, obviously, for us not just to build a product, but also to get a little bit more traction, because the reality is, obviously, you can't raise a Series A, especially in this economic downturn right now, without significant traction at that point. But given the fact that the resources were mostly going to our R&D, because in live communication, if you're down for like 5 seconds, is the end of the world. So we wanted to make sure that we have the most stable live communication platform, and we invested a lot in building a team in-house to actually build all of this technology from ground up. So that meant that sales and marketing was basically myself. I actually did all the sales and marketing at the beginning. I had a chief of staff who was kind of working alongside me and unlocking some of these opportunities and doing some research and making sure that we don't drop any balls. A few tactics that we did very early on. One was something that we're continuing even at this point, and obviously was at a smaller scale. Now it has become a bit of a movement. It's something that we call the Game Changers. And the Game Changers is basically a webinar series where we highlight some of the most amazing CMOs in the world. Like this week, I'm hosting the CMO of SalesLoft. Next week is the founder and CEO of G2. And we have people from like Crossbeam and Carta and so many other amazing companies. And it was basically just we're selling into CMOs and marketing leaders, going to learn from them and say, hey, would you mind sharing your learning with the world? And we're hosting you in a live session, in a fireside chat where people can ask the questions. Sure, we used our own technology to host them all on our website. So it was like, a demo in disguise as well for some people who did not see our technology before. And this has really created a movement. And it's free. You obviously don't have to spend a lot of money to do something like this, where you invite people, have a kind of a good discussion. And then obviously they attract their own network, and there is more and more awareness that is being built because of that. And we started building a few tactics around it with email and kind of connection with them. So I think that was a really good initiative that we started doing. And that's all about delivering value and content and positioning yourself as a thought leader very, very early on. Because you might think that, hey, I'm so early, like who's gonna believe me? I'm just too, kind of too soon in this. But it's never too early to position yourself as a founder, as a marketing leader in that particular industry, because that's the first thing that you can do in terms of marketing, not paid ads or anything like that. That's expensive. That's, even for the company of our size, is still too expensive. It's just a matter of like really building that awareness around yourself as a founder, because people follow people. People don't follow companies, especially when the company is only like, you know, a few months old. So that was really successful for us, and that allowed us to have conversations with leaders in the market that we were selling into, as well as delivering valuable content. And then it was literally just flexing our network muscle and asking people, hey, do you know anyone else that would be interested in something like this, and having a conversation with them from that moment on as well. It was a very scrappy way of getting early traction that really worked for us. Oh, and referrals. That was another important thing that we had. As we got a few really happy customers, like, hey, do you mind referring us to other customers? And we would have something like nominal, very small kind of gift of saying thank you for doing this, or we would give them like a few free months to use SQL as, you know, as a thank you for introducing us to other customers. Now we have a more robust referral program in place, but very early on it was a little bit more casual. And because they loved our product, they were also happy to share that with other people in their network. They would get something in return. And again, that was completely free. And it's actually building a really good network around you. So I would think that making the most of your network and your customers, as well as focusing on content and delivering content on all channels through your website, on social media, those two things were very good for us early on, and we didn't spend any money to do it.
So great. And so I just have one last question for Oana, and then we'll open it up to the group. For those of you in person, raise your hand, and I'll come over with the microphone. For those of you who are online, go ahead and drop it online, and you'll get as monitoring the chat. So with that, so SQL is a remote first company. There's a lot of founders are encouraged to really think outside, like heading into work, heading into the office. And so everyone's like, it's a great idea. I'd love to be able to get talent outside of my city. How did you do it with SQL? How did you build that culture, build that accountability, build that connection, and how are you attracting talent into that system?
Yeah, I think all companies are trying to figure out remote culture right now, and there's no right or wrong answer. I think it's more around what works for you as an organization, and it's much less about founders sitting in a room figuring out what works for their employees, and much more about, hey guys, this is how we're doing things. What do you think about it? What would you like more of it? So at first, I mean, we started building SQL as a remote company from day zero, also because we were forced. We were born in 2020, so everyone was remote at that point. But then we also saw it as an opportunity to really find talent everywhere in the world. And that's incredible. That's incredible from all perspectives. It's incredible for founders building companies, the fact that you can work with anyone in the world. There's tools right now, there's platforms, there's playbooks on how to do it. And it's also incredible for people outside of the US or even in the US, but not living in New York or Boston or San Francisco, to be able to add value and work with incredible companies. I'm an immigrant myself. I was born in Romania. I'm European. So it's also kind of a personal thing for me where everybody should have the opportunity to work for the hottest organizations, no matter where they live. And we work with our team very closely. Right now, we have about 30 people in 9 different countries, mostly US, but then also about 4 or 5 different countries in Europe as well. And we do a lot of things. We obviously use SQL for all things like virtual and connectivity. We use ClickUp to live into from all documentation. And we run a very transparent organization where everything is in ClickUp, from like our OKRs and progress. So everyone feels like they're part of the same vibe. We do team networking every week where we choose a random question, like something really funny, and we all kind of mingle with each other across all the departments. And then every quarter we get together as a team in person to finish the quarter together, and then start a new quarter again together and celebrate the wins, figuring out challenges and setting the objectives together as a team was very important. And it's also about hiring the same culture. We set a no egos, transparent culture in place, and we make sure that every single person who comes in has those values, and really helps us build a remote culture a lot faster than than in any other way.
Thank you so much, Oana. And so I'll ask the group, any other questions? Okay, great. Oana, we got a question over here.
Oana, really good hearing you. Really, you sound very motivated about your company. And I feel so stupid asking you this, but and I took a lot of notes. But what is it? Because I'm coming in maybe a little bit late, just learn about SQL. Can you just describe what is it that you do? I did take some notes, but I'm still learning about your company. And so what is it that you do? And really good hearing you. You really sound like it's your first day at work and you're really motivated. So it's encouraging to hear you speak. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sure. So what we do at SQL, we allow organizations of all sizes to host and embed all their webinars and live events directly into their own websites for a more integrated customer journey. So instead of sending everyone to other webinar platforms or third-party apps, you basically host everyone into your own .com to drive more traffic to your website, more conversions and SEO. And we work with companies of all sizes, from small startups and nonprofits all the way to large organizations like Carta and G2 and SalesLoft and so many others. I'm not sure if it was a follow-up to that question. I couldn't hear very well.
So does she do a search engine optimization?
So do you do any SEO, search engine optimization?
Yeah, so we just started.
Jason is like our director and cinematographer.
If we do SEO as an organization, like our marketing strategy. Yes, we just started actually working on our SEO. We hired our content lead last week. I wish we did SEO sooner. I would say something like especially for early stage startups, start that way sooner than this, because it takes 6 months to build it up. But we have started doing this recently, yeah.
Got another question. Here we go.
Hi, great presentation. As a founder, what would be your feedback on like one of the largest challenges you faced getting going, COVID, and what's been some of your largest challenges?
Would you mind repeating that? I didn't hear very well.
If you could give kind of a rundown of what have been the greatest challenges that you've experienced as a founder, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Challenges from kind of a market industry perspective, because there's many.
No, for sure. Our audience member friend was saying it could be COVID, go-to-market, and anything, however you feel are the common challenges that people may encounter as they grow their company.
Yeah, I feel like we build founders right now who are building companies, and especially who've been building companies for the past 2 years. They built them through a pandemic, through the Great Recession, through an economic downturn, through bank failures. So I think that being a founder right now makes you incredibly resilient and creative in finding different ways of, and I feel like nothing can surprise me anymore, considering how many things have happened. I think that the biggest thing as a founder, and it applies to anyone regardless of the pandemic or not, is all about adapting. And we're seeing companies that were not able to adapt, that could not kind of get over the pandemic, could not get over certain moments in time. And it's all about making sure that you adapt your product, that you adapt your company to the new situations or the new world, while still staying true to your vision, which is incredibly hard. But I feel like the vision doesn't have to change. It's the way that you build your company, position your solution. For example, right now we're going through an economic downturn. and marketing budgets have been slashed, and teams have been reduced, and we're selling into marketing a lot. So we've adapted our solution. First of all, our solution is perfectly positioned for like efficiency because of all the things that it does. But we've also adapted the way we do business so that we're more partners with our customers and marketing teams, and understanding their needs and budget constraints, and working with them on some of those challenges to be able to go through it together, rather than just keeping holding on to the solutions that we built like 2 years ago and not being able to kind of adapt to the model. I think that that's the biggest thing as a founder, especially early on, is constantly adapting to the world and the customer needs, and being very close to customers, because building in silo within the organization is very dangerous if you don't put your product in your customers' hands, even when it's not perfect, but it's still something that you'll get as a valuable insight from them.
All right, we have some more questions, and what I'll do is I'll ask, because of the audio being is a little shaky, I'll just ask Yulia if she can type in the question, so that way Oana is able to see it, so that way you won't have to repeat it, or have to bear with my interpretation of your question, which is arguably worse.
I want to ask how you were different from competitors such as GoCast, because they're aligned behind their platforms here.
Yeah, happy to answer that. We're the only, so unlike, I don't know if it was a follow-up. Unlike any other solution on the market, Goldcast being one of them, and so many other platforms, we're the only solution that allows you to host all your webinars and live events into your own website, into your own .com, instead of driving all the traffic away, all the people, your entire audience, and away to other platforms and third-party apps. We have a huge respect for other players in the market. As a matter of fact, SQL has built from ground up, so we're not sitting on top of other APIs. We built our own APIs, so we also power companies like vFairs and Splash and Rallyup, other third-party platforms. But we do believe that marketing leaders, especially in a world where we're going towards a cookieless world, in a world where every company becomes a media company and they care about their web properties and the customer success stories and tracking on their website, we think that market leaders are so keen in bringing the audience into their own website so that they can track all of that, they can build those experiences natively rather than losing them into other platforms and apps. And that's basically the main difference between us and other platforms.
Hi, I noticed you said you built in, I'm not sure how long it took you, I guess 2.5 years or so, to build up to 30 employees, and in 9 countries around the world, I think you said. So my question is, in a remote first company and in 9 countries around the world, how do you build a company culture? And how much priority did you give that as you were scaling?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Company culture is something that you always work on. You start very early on with your first employees, and then you set together some values, and you realize that those values are continuously morphing. As we build up the company in other countries, first of all, you have time zones that we're starting to that we build around. We have the certain times of the day where everyone can do meetings, and then there's other times where it's more, hey, we can work together, but like let's be respectful of other people's like times and time with their families. Then second is all about building this. We build kind of a space in ClickUp where everyone can check in on the values, everyone can check in on the progress. It's basically building an async communication through its knowledge transfer between the team, especially as the team has started to grow close to like 20 to 30 people. You realize that people don't really have that much time to kind of be on calls all the time. So there's a lot of async communication that is happening. And we have videos, we have a ton of documentation that every single time someone onboarding, they can jumpstart much faster. We're respectful of other people's cultures and holidays, and we try to plan around it. So we have like a massive calendar where everyone's, kind of off or on. And I think from a remote culture perspective, it's important to build trust and accountability. I trust my team that they're performing instead of like looking at their time and what they're spending their time on. Is more about kind of performance based. We have something called big rocks every single week. Every single person in the team is setting a big rock. And that's basically something that we want to accomplish every single week towards our goals. And the only time where I go and look at their calendars and see kind of, what they're spending the time on is if, performance is an issue, or like they might need help prioritizing. Otherwise, is all about working together and kind of achieving our goals, and being respectful of each other's time.
Hi, I have a question about the product prioritization. Actually, the question is, can you please talk about all of the relevant milestones in the product features and product mission, from the idea to the product market fit? Have you found it, and how did you get it?
Could you repeat that? I understand it's about prioritization, but I didn't get the entire question.
It is, can you just make some comments about how did you find product market fit? How did you know you found it? And what do you do after?
Yeah. Product market fit for us was a journey, because the world, building in between 2020 and 2022, the world was changing every 3 months, really. The needs were different. At the beginning, especially in live communication, everybody needed a platform that they could host a lot of people with booths and exhibitors. Then it changed to a little bit of the hybrid. And now we stabilized a lot around kind of recurrent sessions and webinars. 95% of marketers are doing webinars as their #1 demand generation tool. So it's something that has been solidified in the world and in the industry, in this new normal, where large events are back in person, whereas webinars are the ones that are kind of driving more marketing, demand gen, and most importantly, especially in this year, marketing efficiency. So we went through a few kind of waves of product market fit. We did believe in this vision of the fact, and especially as a marketer, of the fact that the world will come back to some in person as well as virtually, having every company having built a global community by this point. So we targeted that, and to get to our product market fit was mostly around really understanding our target market. So I spoke to 100+ CMOs. I literally just messaged them and say, hey, this is what we're building. I would love to get your thoughts on how this works. I had some introductions as well from Techstars, which I'm very grateful for, from our investors as well. So really flexing the muscles of our network, and really asking them and telling them what we're thinking and what we're doing. And working with more and more companies that way really allowed us to prioritize the features that we're building, because at the beginning you can build so much, and we had obviously like a vision of like what a foundation would look like, but we would sit together at the beginning, even on a weekly basis, and look at all the features that we heard that were being asked, and we would prioritize them in a variety of ways. One is this feature a blocker to the customers that we have right now? Then is this a feature that can be used by all customers? Something to mention, unless you're building a high enterprise solution, I would not recommend building a feature specifically for one customer. We had that, we made that mistake a little bit, where we were building this feature for only one customer and realized very quickly that would not be scalable. So we only focus on features that can be used by the majority of our customers, or we can scale to others as well. And then 3 is what's the trade-off that you're making? If you're building this particular feature for your product, what else can you not build, and how do you kind of plan that out, impacting your goal? If your goal is revenue, or if your goal is adoption, how is that impacting it? And as you kind of keep on like building the features and working with your customers and getting more people and more feedback and really bringing them in as paid customers, very quickly you realize that you start seeing a pattern. It's basically a motion where you can follow a very early playbook. It's not really a written playbook, but you realize that this particular customer usually wants these particular features at this particular price point, and this is how we get to this customer. This is kind of our acquisition channel. This is what works. And we started putting a little bit more, gas on the fire on this motion bit by bit until we realized that it's scaling. And that's when we realized that we have product market fit. When we had our customer base, we had our product in place, the right packaging and the messaging for it. And it was scaling in a more predictable way. We knew where to find these customers and the value that we bring to them. And this is how we first started with like smaller customers. And right now we work, with all logos, and we have some enterprise customers as well, which has been great.
You got a follow-up.
Can you make some comments about the challenges of changing focus from these early adopters to the enterprise customers?
Can I get that question again?
The challenges of expanding from the early adopters to the enterprise customers?
Yeah, changing from early adopters to enterprise customers.
Okay, that's a good question. For early adopters to enterprise customers, yeah, that's great. So we had some early adopters were our enterprise customers, which was great. Like Comcast was one of our very first customers, and we started kind of building the pilot with them and scaling from there. After we brought in some enterprise customers, we realized that we actually want to focus a lot more on our mid-market customers rather than enterprise, and that's a decision that we made from a product perspective and go to market, because there's a different motion. For enterprise customers, you build a lot of custom features because obviously they're huge organizations and they always will need certain, specific features that fit for their particular organization. In addition to that, being early on, working with enterprise customers meant having all our SOC 2s and security. And while our platform was great, we didn't have those things very early on. Now we're SOC 2 certified. We're very well positioned to work with large organizations. But early on, we realized that we're much better positioned for startups and mid-market. And we focused to build for them, which means building for scale, building for a large number of customers. Going from early adopters to customers in general, like that, were not necessarily early adopters, was a pretty seamless transition, because first your early adopters also become your customer success stories. So you're using those customer success stories to build, quotes and the website and your sales deck. And naturally you start acquiring new customers where you feel very strong about your product, and they're not early adopters anymore. They're your 10th, 20th, 50th customer at that point.
And it's like encouraging me so much, because I just started with the Master of Entrepreneurship and Innovation last week, and I'm curious about because the solution kind of be the part of regulation of communication from in person to be centralized in some platform, and the solution be decentralized, that every company can have the communication platform even on their own website. So from look back to look forward, we can see from the transformation like this. So the question is, do you have any idea about the next innovation that might disrupt the communication again, and how you plan about this disruptive innovation that might come to the future?
The question is, what's next in terms of innovation? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
What are the trends that are coming in the communication space, and what's going to disrupt, and how are you preparing for SQL to ride that wave and be part of it?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I got it. So when it comes to the transition, like you're right. We believe in a decentralized world, and we're seeing that more and more with social media platforms not being, that stable or the preferred medium or the preferred channel for organizations to build their brand on, because it's rented space, and any third party platform, any platform is a rented space. So brands and organizations nowadays are taking the matter in their own hands, and they're building their own content. That's why we're seeing so many companies doing sessions and content, and they have studios, and they have beautiful production kind of videos coming through for thought leadership, for content, and really educating the market. And this is where we sit very strongly in. And in terms of the complication of actually them building on their website, um, embedding SQL on someone's website is as easy as putting an image. It's basically an iframe. So if you ever embedded a YouTube video or a photo on a website, it's easy as that to actually go live directly from your website. So from kind of a sophistication perspective, is very simple. We built this for marketers. We didn't build this for engineers because we wanted marketers to feel, put a HubSpot form. Why not just put the entire SQL iframe and go live directly from there and bring millions of people to your website rather than a Zoom app or a different platform. That's basically what we believed in. But that doesn't mean we're stopping the innovation here. We remain the only solution to allow organizations to do this, and we've taken it to the next step further. For example, SQL AI. SQL AI basically takes all your webinars and live sessions and turns them into SEO optimized blog posts in a couple of minutes. And kind of really builds that on-demand content afterwards. In terms of where the world is going, I think that we're a very much content-driven world where every single person, company, community has the power to build a story, has the power to build content, and we're not relying on agencies or like specific like social media platforms or other organizations to build content for us. This is the reason why we're here with these amazing companies like Prepare for VC and so on, because they build content for their community and they add value to their community. And I do think that that's the future. It's all about building your narrative as an organization as well as a person, building your own brand by positioning yourself as a thought leader.
I have questions from you. One more question, Juan.
I'll keep this very brief, but this is crazy, but the name of your company is SQL. One word.
Yeah.
All right, that was I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you. An awesome presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go SQL. Go SQL. I'm a supporter.
Yeah, Oana, where does the name come from?
We rebranded when we closed our Series A because we believed in a world where people are not just putting on one virtual event a year. We believed in a world where, and this is like before webinars became like this virtual thing. This was more than a year ago. We believed in a world where organizations are engaging their community on a recurrent basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, bringing them into their own branded universe and really building up that thought leadership with them. So we're all about, well, this is going to be a series of things. So it's always going to be a sequel. And this is how we basically come up with the name SQL.
And we have Oana, before we sign off, any final words of wisdom, encouragement, heads up on the gotchas that you would like to share with our group?
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, it's all about like adapting to the new world and how, the market is shifting. From a fundraising perspective, the valuation market is still crazy. So I think that, the traction needs to be a lot higher right now for founders to be able to raise significant amounts of money. So I think that it's important to focus on your customers right now. Of course, if you have the resources to do that, every single startup is different. But if you can do that at least for the next 6 months or for at least a year, which we hear is going to take until, kind of the markets are shifting back to kind of a new normality, is like just focus on your customers, listen to them, build with them, for them. Don't just put yourself in their shoes, actually work with them through this, because it's incredible how open customers are to build with you when you ask for it. And this is the only way to build like a really good business and enough traction and customer love to be able to fundraise if that's what you're planning to do, or, to be profitable if you plan to do bootstrapping. And the second thing is just, I think for me, it was all about surrounding myself with incredible founders, incredible leaders and investors, and really learning from each other a lot, kind of building my crew, my gang that I can just text every time there's something going on, like who can help me with this, or I'm going through this, anyone is going through the same thing. That made me go a lot faster. That makes you feel less lonely building a company, because it is. And that basically opens up a lot of opportunities. So as a founder, sometimes you can get so narrow focused into your building your business and 100% of your time doing that. And just don't forget that spending time with other founders and with your network actually is probably much more valuable than trying and figuring out something yourself, because chances are someone else has figured out your problem out at some point, or at least they can help you do that. And building up that crew, that Techstars did it for me, and then even some other organizations afterwards has been so valuable.
Thank you so much, Oana. And I would just ask everyone to join me in a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so in a few minutes remaining, for those of you in person, we'll go ahead and close out with a little bit of networking. For those of you that are online, we will keep the portal open so you can engage online. Oana, thank you so much. I know that you will be going immediately after this call to dive in and promote the growth of SQL. Thank you so much for providing your wisdom and your guidance and being so candid and offering this incredible platform for this series. Thank you so much. Prepare for VC is amazing. It's fantastic. It is doing exactly what founders have been asking for support with, how they go from the idea and really growing to be a grown-up company, and how to really navigate those investor conversations and get ready to scale. Thank you so much, Yulia, for all that you do with the community and with SQL. Thank you so much, and I'll hand it over to Jason.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank
you. And amazing job, Simone, on the moderation. Thanks for all the great questions from the audience, and Oana, amazing job on sharing your SQL story here. So kind of, what's next, as Simone described, we can have some time to network and everybody get to know each other. That came out. And then both the virtual and in-person audience will also make sure it's invited. We have a Slack channel open for all the events throughout the week. I think there's about like 120 something numbers in there right now, so we'll make sure everybody gets an invite if you're not in there already. And then our next event is coming up tonight at 5 at Mass Challenge, pretty much like 2 blocks away from here. It's called It Takes a Village, and we're going to have different community leaders around Boston sharing their story. So that'll also be both in person at Mass Challenge and then virtually on SQL. And last thing is the event today, or the recording, will be up on the prepareforvc.com website, and it'll turn into, or the event session from today will turn into a recording within about probably a few hours. So really appreciate everybody coming out, and looking forward to engaging more.